Hey guys, it's Sarah and today's BookList Thursday. This is a video series that I have started with my friend Lisa over at Books and Smiles, and I will have her link down below, so make sure you go check her out as well. This week we are talking about the best books in 2017 that were runner-ups for our top 10. So we have a top 10, which is going to be next week. This week is the ones that didn't quite make the top 10 list, but they were still really good books that we enjoyed and we would recommend for people to read. So that's kind of how we're going to be doing this. And this one was hard. It was hard to make these two lists because I pretty much knew like my top 5, I guess you could say, of the books that I read this year. But then after that, it got really fuzzy and I was trying to decide, which list some of these books belonged on. But I think I have it nailed down and I think I'm pretty comfortable with the list that I have created here. Okay, so for the runners up, the first one that I have on here is the GrownUp, and that is written by Gillian Flynn. I love Gillian Flynn. I've loved everything that I read from her so far, and I still have one more book to read, but I have just loved everything by her that I've read. And this one is a short story. It was actually part of a compilation book, I believe, and then they published it on its own as well, just because she's gotten so popular as an author. And it's only about 45 pages, so I read it in one sitting easily. And this one is kind of a ghost story, and it follows a fortune teller type of person who is called to a house to kind of see if she can get the ghost out of the house. And it was very interesting and I really loved it. I thought this would make a great full-length novel. So I kind of wish, obviously it was longer and you didn't really get that kind of resolve at the end just because it was a short story, but I still really enjoyed it. I really like her writing. Next one is a book that was sent to me for review, and it's called The Castaways, and this is written by Jessica Fleck, and I loved this book. It was such a surprise. I was approved for it, I believe, through NetGalley, and then I got contacted by the publisher independently, and talking about the book when I got approved for it. And so I ended up doing a full review for this book, and I just loved it. It's kind of a young adult take on The Lord of the Flies. It had that kind of vibe in it, which is from what I've heard. I haven't read Lord of the Flies yet, but now I really want to. So it actually has a little bit of time travel as well. It follows a girl who is kind of having a hard time in her high school, and she is being very bullied by a group of girls. So they go to this school carnival that they had, like a fall carnival type of thing, and it takes place around a corn maze. And she runs into these girls at the carnival. She is literally chased into the corn maze by these girls. She ends up tripping and falling into a portal that takes her to a deserted island in the middle of the ocean. And there are a bunch of kids there who are surviving on that island. Now, those kids have been there for different amounts of time. They're from different time periods in our history. It's so interesting. And so you meet these characters and kind of learn where they're from and see them try to survive on their own. I just loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was very adventuresome. It had things happen in there that really surprised me and broke my heart. And I really, really liked it. The only thing I didn't like is that there wasn't really any resolve with the bullies at the end. Like, I really wish there had been like this big confrontation type of thing between her and the bullies and her kind of putting them in their place, but that didn't really happen. So that's the only thing I really wished that had happened in the book, but I really, really enjoyed it. And the next one that was a really nice surprise, and this is actually a book that I got from like a Facebook Secret Santa type of thing, and it is Pebble Jumping, and this is written by Amber L. Johnson. And this book follows a young boy who is autistic and a girl who is not, and they form this friendship when they're little, but they drift apart and, kind of don't keep that friendship up. But then they meet up again in high school, and that friendship sparks again, and it blossoms into love. So this is pretty much a love story between these two, and it was beautiful. I loved it. I flew through this. I think I read this in one sitting, and it was just so refreshing to see that, because usually when you read a book about autism, it's autism to a very severe point to where, they can't do anything on their own and they need so much help. And this one is a high-functioning autistic boy who goes to regular school. He has regular interactions with people, and just seeing their love between each other happen, and see the way that she is so incredibly understanding and gentle of him and wants to understand him and wants to be part of his life is just so refreshing, and I just loved it. I thought it was beautiful. All right, this next one is The Confusion of Languages. This was sent to me for review from the publisher as well, and this is written by Saban Fallon. And this one takes place in a foreign country. It's kind of, I don't remember if it even actually said the country that it's set in, but it's like a Middle Eastern country. And it follows people who are part of the American embassy over there. So the husbands are like military type government workers, and they are able to bring their families with them. So their families go, and you kind of follow two different families. One has been there for a little while. They're struggling with infertility and not being able to have kids. The other family is brand new to the area, and they have a son, and they are being sponsored by the people who have been there for a while. This was so interesting. And when I read the premise for it and accepted the book, it sounded interesting, but I was really surprised at how much I really enjoyed this book, because you spend a lot of time in here trying to figure out what's going on. Something happens to the wife of the new family, and she's very reckless and just feels like she can go out and go do anything anytime she wants, and there's no problem, and she'll be fine, and it's fine, everything's fine. But they're living in a very hostile country, and a lot of people there are hostile towards Americans. So she's kind of learning that as she goes along, like, oh, maybe I can't just do whatever I want and go wherever I want and everything's going to be fine. And then one night she ends up disappearing. So it's very interesting, and you, like I said, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out where in the world is this woman and what is she doing, and you're following her path because they're trying to figure out where she is, and they're figuring out what her day was like the day that she disappeared. And it was so interesting. I really, really loved it. The next one that I really enjoyed was Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. And I buddy read this with a couple of ladies, and we all really loved it. This is the biography of Alexander Hamilton, and this was the book that inspired the musical on Broadway. And I loved it. And that's why I wanted to read it, because I was listening to the music from the show and like finding out all the stuff about the show and becoming a little bit obsessed with it. And I was like, you know what? I want to read about, the inspiration and the person and, what they were picking and choosing to put in that play and, do all this stuff. I haven't seen the play, but I've seen little bits and pieces and listened to it enough that I kind of know how it goes. And it was interesting because while I was reading this, I was picking up on things that they were using in the play, like certain titles of things or certain titles of songs that were mentioned in here because of a certain event or a person or an animal or something. And so it was fun talking to the girls about that. We were like, oh, this is the reference for this song. And, hey, this is this line, from that song and all that. So it was really interesting to see that kind of unfold from here and kind of see where he got his inspiration to do the show. So yeah, I really loved it. It was very, very interesting, and it has gotten me wanting to read some more historical biographies about some of our founding fathers and people who are involved in this time period, because you learn a lot. Like, these people were not the greatest people. They really weren't. They were very stubborn. They were very set in their ways. Well, kind of like our government today. They're all stubborn and set in their ways. But some of these people are put up on pedestals, and they probably shouldn't be. Yes, it is a factor of the time period. It is. But yeah, it was just very interesting to see all these people that you learn about in school, and they're kind of made out to be heroes, but then you see what they were actually doing back then, and some of the side things, like they were saying one thing but then doing this. We're like, I don't know about this guy. So yeah, it was very interesting. I loved it. And the next one is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I actually read these duology. There's a second book as well, which I read and I really enjoyed. I did enjoy the first one a little bit more, so I'm only going to show this one for now. But this is a retelling of 1001 Nights. So it follows a prince, and he kind of has a curse on him, and that curse is causing him to take a bride every single day. And then by the end of the day, that bride is dead. He has to have her killed. And there's a certain reason why. And we follow a young girl named Shahrazad, who is a woman who goes and volunteers to be the king's next bride because he has recently killed her best friend. So she wants to go volunteer, get into the palace, be alone with him so that she can kill him and get revenge on him. However, naturally, things are not as they seem. And these two, I ship them. I ship them all day long. I loved their relationship. I loved the way it started. I loved how it blossomed. I loved what they both gave each other that they both really needed. It was fantastic. I loved this. There was also some great adventure in both of these books, and they took some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. So I was never bored. I was very interested the entire time, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was beautiful. The next one is The Painter's Daughter, and this is written by Julie Klassen, and this is a Christian historical fiction book, and it follows a young girl who is the daughter of a painter, and she is also kind of a little budding artist herself. She ends up really falling for another artist who was kind of apprenticing under her father. She ends up pregnant, but they weren't married, and his brother ends up coming and looking for him, although the artist has disappeared, just kind of taken off on his own, not knowing she was pregnant. And so his brother shows up to kind of bring him back. He's like an army general, and the army general figures out that she's pregnant and makes her an offer she can't refuse. He says to her, well, marry me. We can have, a platonic marriage. We can claim the baby is mine. You won't have your name smeared everywhere. We can get married right now, type of thing. Basically, I'll take care of you, even though it's my brother's baby. It was so good, you guys. I was not expecting this book to be as good as it was, but I really, really enjoyed it. There was so much scandal, and there was just so many things that happened that I wasn't expecting, and I felt a lot of emotions in this book, which is very strange. And like I said, it was a Christian nonfiction, so there is an aspect of, especially the general, who was a very godly man, and so that's definitely in there. It's not the main focus of the book, but it's in there for sure. And I just loved it. I really did. I sat there and I was reading it. I flew through it really quickly, and I was just like, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, this is so scandalous. It's like Downton Abbey, like scandalous. Like, you don't think that these things happen, but they do. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. The next one is Eleanor Olefin is Completely Fine, and this is written by Gail Honeyman. I really enjoyed this book. It did take me a little bit longer, I think, to get into it than some other people, but once I got into it, I was all in. And Eleanor is such a quirky character. I've never read a character quite like her before. And her story is that she has grown up with a very hard childhood. She ended up being a victim of a fire, so she has some scarring on her, especially on her face and her hands, I believe. And so that's always been a struggle for her to deal with. She's also very literal, to the point where I'm wondering if she was maybe like on the spectrum. And just the way that she interacts with people is very kind of Sheldon Cooper-ish. Like, there was one point where she was getting her nails done, and the nail technician was trying to like talk her into coming back and blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, I'm not going to come back. I could do this at home and I could do a better job. And then she walks out, and just things like that. She's very, very literal. And the way she interacts with people, she's no nonsense. She doesn't beat around the bush. She tells you what she thinks, whether it's going to hurt your feelings or not. So it was very interesting. And you really see her make a new friendship, which is very rare for her to really make new friends. And you see that interaction happen, and it was fantastic. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Again, it took me a little bit longer to get into, like completely immersed into it, but I ended up just really, really, really loving it. Okay, this next one is the first book in a series, and I'm really excited to continue on this series, but the first book really just caught me off guard, and that is Left Behind. This is written by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, and this is a Christian fiction book as well. This book follows the aftermath of the reckoning. So in the very beginning, the reckoning happens, all of God's people go up to heaven with him, and then everybody left on earth are the people who are left behind, and you see them try to figure out what in the world just happened because it's a lot of non-believers. So they have no idea what's going on. And a few people have started kind of figuring it out or taking guesses like, I think God took his people and we're left here to fend for ourselves now. And it was so good. And it was very eye-opening, and it made me question what I'm doing in my own life. And when the reckoning happens, am I going to be up there with God? I really hope so. You know, so it was definitely one of those books that made me think. And I was also trying to figure out who in the world the Antichrist is, because he's in here too. And I could not figure it out at first. I was kind of going back and forth. By the end, you know who it is. But like, it had me, you know, trying to guess who it was, because there was a few options. And oh man, it was so good. I'm really excited to go on to the next one. I'm going to be reading the next one in January. And yeah, it was really good. And the last one I'm going to talk about is The Land of Stories, written by Chris Colfer. This book surprised me. I got this for Kaylin because she's a big reader as well. She's my 9-year-old. And I thought she would really like it because it's kind of a different take on classic fairy tales. So it has all these princesses in here like Cinderella and Rapunzel and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, and Little Red Riding Hood is in here, and Goldilocks, and you know, just all these really awesome characters that we all know and love. And this is a different take on it. It follows a set of twins who live in today's society. They have this book called The Wishing Spell, and it's a book that their father used to read to them, and their father has passed on. So they are really connected to this book because of the memories of him reading them stories from it. And it has all these characters in it. And they end up accidentally falling into the book. And they kind of get transported into these stories and to this world. So you see them like literally get transported there, and they are living the stories that they grew up listening to. And they're realizing that, oh, this is not the best of places. There's lots of crap going on here. And it was so good. I was really, really surprised by how much, number one, happened in here. And there was a lot of danger and just things they had to go through. It was fantastic. Like, we literally sat there and we were reading it together, and I was just like, this is so good. Like, I really, really like this. Good job, Chris Colfer. So we are continuing on with this series. We're reading book number 2 right now. We have number 3 ready for us. We're going to get the other 3 as well. And these are actually being turned into films, and Chris Colfer is going to be directing them, which I think is awesome. So he's going to be able to really stay true to the stories. And Kaylin is beyond herself. Like, she's so excited about these becoming movies. I think they're going to be fantastic movies. So yeah, I really like this. Okay, guys, that is it. Those are my runner-ups for best books of 2017. Next week, I will be sharing my top 10 of 2017, which was the hardest list to come up with. I had such a hard time picking my favorites. You know, it's like picking your favorite children. You can't do it. You know, it's crazy. But I am pretty comfortable with that list. Let me know down below if you guys have any books that you really, really enjoyed, even if they are not considered like your favorites of this year. And make sure you go check out Lisa's channel and see what she picked for this list as well. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye.